talking about sculpture and installation art today. So, if y'all have ever been to Chicago, or, if you know anything about Chicago, if you've ever seen anybody take a picture of Chicago, you've probably seen this right here. This is Anish Kapoor's Cloud Gate. Everybody just calls it the bean because it looks like a bean. It is extremely well known. It's one of, I think, probably Anish Kapoor's most well known sculpture, if not one of his most, if not the most, I would say. So he is from India, and he's world renowned. He works in steel, and he moved to London. So yeah, this is at Chicago's Millennial Gate Park. You always see people like taking pictures in front of this, and I thought that this was like a good example of like really art as a spectacle. I would say that everything in here, like how Usain Ward kind of talks about like the art as a spectacle. It's like large things. Not everything in here is large because like I'm just also talking about like sculpture, but a lot of it is as well. But this is definitely what I would call a spectacle. I mean, people are always like taking selfies in it. Like, yeah, it's very well known, to say the very least. Cloud Gate, you see the clouds in there. It's so beautiful with the Chicago skyline. There we go. This is also site specific. We will get into that later. Alright, so sculpture. The definition of sculpture, anyways. So sculpture is three-dimensional art made by one of four basic processes, either carving, modeling, casting, or constructing. So here we have sculpture, and this is by Genesis Belanger, and this is called Fashionable Habitat, and this is 2019. And this is like from that same collection, but I couldn't find the name of it. I just really thought they were kind of cool. But this artist works in clay, and she kind of makes sculptures that have a lot of bodily forms, female hands and stuff, and it could have gone in the Artist Confrontation Week or something like that. No, I don't know, maybe. So basically, the point of this is a type of sculpture. It is made out of clay. Clay is fired, and then like you mold it. It's molded, modeled, and and these are an example of in the round. So in the round, if you see a sculpture or a work of art, and it's in the round, it means you can walk around it. It is a freestanding sculpture. Like if this is the sculpture, I can like go all the way around it in the round. Pretty self-explanatory. Also known as freestanding. So there you go. So as it says right here, for basic processes, one of the processes is carving. So carving is a sculptural technique that involves using tools to shape a form by cutting or scraping away from a solid material such as stone, wood, ivory, or bone. So here we have, this is by the artist Guy Zergursky, and it's an installation of No Lifeguard on Duty. These are like really, really large wood carvings of sharks. And carving is a subtractive sculptural method, and that just means that you take material away. So subtractive, take material away, simply as that. So this came, like these were obviously add-ons, but the body of the shark right here, this actually came from like one tree trunk that like was carved. So Guy Zergursky, he is Israeli, and he often works in large-scale carvings like this, often in wood, to kind of create spectacle and like with the power of the scale. And he plays a lot with like power relationships in his artwork. But yeah, carving. So another type of carving, so we have wood carving, and this is an in the round carving. So that means it was carved out of, and then you can walk all the way around it, you know, like all sides. So it has to have that, because otherwise it would be just on the ground. Y'all should probably figure that out though. All right, so other types of carving, whenever they're not in the round, it is relief. So a relief is a raised form on a largely flat background. For example, the design on coins is a relief. Coins. So coins are like the most common relief that you see because it's kind of raised. You know, when we did the rubbing, and some of y'all, that was like our first art assignment. And some of y'all did like a plaque or something like that. I would say that's like a relief. So there are different types of relief. A bas relief is a low relief. And so that would be what a coin is, or, you know, like, just like a carved stone with like all those little stones at the gate at the stadium and stuff. So that's a low relief. Or that, the new, like, walkway thing in Athens, like the Music Hall of Fame. Have y'all been seeing those? That's a low relief, bas relief. So a sculpture carved with very little depth is, and the carved subjects rise only slightly above the surface of the work, like a coin. And then a high relief is a carved panel where figures project with a great deal of depth from the background. So high relief, low relief. What we have here are high relief. Well, actually right here, that's not that high, but it's like kind of high. So this is by an artist named Bob Clyett, and he works in sculptures. So these are both made with Carrara marble and then like some other blend. And I would just like to say that, like, this guy from the podcast, you know, y'all know which one I'm talking about. He doesn't like anything. He's just boring. And he's like, oh, only people that, like, were born a million years ago do marble, and this guy, he's doing marble right now. So this is marble sculptures that he carves. This one was from 2017. This is 2016. This is, like, he calls them his cultural landscapes. So, like, he has a lot. It's like very relevant to our time, and like brands, it's like Levi's, Paps, there's a Toyota stuff, and it's just like it looks like they're coming out of the stone, like they were artifacts that were kind of buried in there. It's pretty interesting. But yeah, these are marble carvings that are contemporary. High relief, because it's raised from the, like that. Alright, so now, modeling. So as it said in this other part, there are the different types of processes and modeling. So this was also modeling, because like you fire clay. But I've talked about Levon Jenkins before, but I like him, and he does modeling. But it's like untraditional, because typically when people think about modeling, they think about is an additive process. This means the soft material is worked by the artist to build a shape or form rather than scraping or a material away as carving. And unlike carving, soft materials such as clay and wax can be changed and reworked. So here we have what he calls are his 3D paintings. So Levon Jenkins, I've told y'all about him like early in the semester, maybe in like the What is Art lecture. I don't even know. I forgot. But so what he does here is he creates these sculptural forms, and rather than using something like clay, he actually, a lot of that the depth on there is created with paint. So what he starts with is an armature. So an armature is just like a framework or skeleton used to support a sculpture. So here, like if you had an armature, it's going to be like this. And then maybe he would have like some wire. And then like a little ball, you know? And then, I don't even know if y'all can see that. But he has that. And then he is going to like build, he does like this kind of plastery stuff on it. And then it dries. And then he builds like layers and layers of paint. And then, like, I think he like has to put a little bit on and like let it dry for a while and then come back to it. Because like paint does not, it's like oil paint too. And oil paint takes forever to dry. So, needless to say, this is modeling. That's a very soft material that he's using. And it is an additive sculpture. And it is so that is a sculpting process by which the artist builds a form by adding material. Additive sculpture. Next. Alright, so casting. So, casting involves making a mold and then pouring a liquid material such as molten metal, plastic, rubber, or fiberglass into the mold. A cast is a form made by this process. Many sculptures are produced by the artist modeling a form, normally in clay, wax, or plaster. This can then be used to create a mold to cast form. A mold can cast more than once, allowing the artist to create editions of an artwork. So, basically what an artist does is like they create a mold out of like plaster or wax or clay, and then they can create a lot of different stuff with it by casting it. So here, casting is a substitutive process. So that means you're making something and then you're filling in the hole. Like think about ice cube trays. You're making a cast of water. But you didn't make the mold yourself, so not so artistic. Anyways, here we have some work by Rachel White-Read, and she uses like everyday materials and then makes casts of like the negative space. So Rachel White-Read forces viewers to consider the negative spaces we occupy, but often don't think about this work. So this work right here is house, and it is cast of the negative space of the inside of a house. So, yeah, like these are concrete, like kind of, yeah. I'm so curious how she, I just put my tongue, how she makes these, but like especially the large, like this one, that's like really truly monumental and spectacular or spectacle. So, like, did she cut the house in half? I don't know. And these over here, and then these right here on this side, these are actually at the Georgia Museum of Art. So you can go look at them. So these are her chairs, and it's in the courtyard. And yeah, they are the cast of the underside of chairs. So thinking about the negative space of the spaces that we occupy every day. Pretty interesting. Y'all should know what negative space is because we talked about that early on. All right. So, constructive. So, like, constructive is also what assemblage is. That, like, it said that in the sculpture thing. And, like, an assemblage is a constructive process because it is being constructed. But here, we'll talk about this. Alright, so assemblage is a constructive process. And assemblage is art that is made by assembling a disparate elements, often everyday objects, scavenged by artists, or bought specifically. It should have said like, I don't know where the rest of that word went, like specifically for the purpose of art making. So, y'all read about, Subhadra in your Ways of Looking book. They talked about him on the podcast. Clearly that one guy doesn't think that any of his work has merit. He doesn't like anything though, so who really cares what he thinks? Alright, so Subhadra is a contemporary Indian artist working with a variety of media. He is best known for his monumental sculptural works, composed of everyday material objects such as lunchboxes, tin cans, and cookware. Self-described as a representative of cultural history, his work translates into spiritual quality through items of which they are composed. So, I think his work is pretty cool, and I like it. I don't know what that guy has a problem with. I definitely think that this is a spectacle. I think that takes skill to acquire these things and figure out how they're going to go together. Yeah, but maybe that's just me. So here, on that side we have the Very Hungry God, and it is comprised of, like household items, like largely like cookware, and it says a lot about like domesticity and like the like community of food and stuff like that. Yeah. And then over here we have the My Family Portrait. So, and then the other word, like, so sometimes sculptures are also ready-mades. So ready-mades are everyday objects presented as a work of art. So, like, you know, Duchamp's toilet. I had that at the very end of like the first. That's a ready-made. That's like the OG ready-made. Here, this is like the family portrait because that's like the dishes that hung in his family home. Like just how they were. That's how like they lived. All right. So monumental. So sculpture and installations often are monumental. So now we're like just talking about like general characteristics of sculptures. So they talked about Richard Serra in, or Zane talked about it in the book, and monumental means having an impressive or large scale. Richard Serra is known for that, even though he, gosh, I want to see that quote. Because that was actually a really good quote. So this is how Richard Serra describes his work. The duration of the bodily movements through space and how one understands those sensations and experiences. So just looking at this, you know, it might not feel like wowing. And honestly, like the first time like I saw Richard Serra, I was like, okay, like. But like unless you are actually interacting with it, I'm going to be honest, it is hard to understand, and because it is about the feeling of the space that you occupy within that space. And as you're winding through this sculpture and like it gets like narrow in parts and like you can't see out, like even though it might be open, but like of how it angled. It's just very, like, it is overwhelming whenever you're within the sculptural space. And that's what he does. Like, so it's interesting because he, like, you know, this is a monument, but this wasn't his original idea. And he really does create this sense of, like, the like, at one point I was seeing one in, there's a gallery in Chelsea that had a Richard Serra a few years ago exhibition, and I went with my friend and like, you know, like at one point like it was like you had to go like this like to get through, and I, like didn't love that part. I was like feel a little claustrophobic because like if I get stuck in there it's not gonna be fun. I didn't get stuck, I just like panic a lot. So yeah, monumental. It's all about like the feeling of the body, so with it. Not like the scale. So yeah, it's still about scale then. So kinetic sculptures. So kinetic sculptures are three-dimensional art that moves and is impelled by air currents, motors, or people. This is by Laurent Lo Martin, and this is a French artist. And you know, a lot of times people think about Alexandra Calder. This is also an example of a mobile. Mobiles are things that hang and spin. So people often think of Alexander Calder like with his, but here's a similar artist. So these are gravity-defying bamboo sculptures. They swing in the air, drawing curves of harmony like gracious strokes of Chinese calligraphy. His creations immerse the viewer in the physical and sensational virtues of the organic material. Following the knots and fibers of the plant, the sculpture's structure is shaped using tension and fishing rods. The bamboo is then dried for months, exposing the strong Mediterranean elements. This intervention is the basis for the final piece, which is constructed with organic material, fishing lines, metal, ceramic weights. Like Calder's mobiles, the structures follow strict mathematical laws of movement and balance. His manipulation of the bamboo plants from solid canes to thin articulated contours creates mobile structures where the artwork consists of not only bamboo itself, but also the intangible hollow space within and the shadows of the silhouettes they project. The fragile harmony is achieved through the opposites: flexibility and strength, fullness and void, light and shadow, movement and quietness. So, might seem simple. There's a lot more there. A lot of artistic skill. Like, if you've ever tried to bend a bamboo, like, it doesn't just, like, bend like that. Like, especially not that many times. So, cool. Alright, so installation art. We talked a lot about installation art, different types of installation art, and so you all should know by now what an installation is. But here, the term installation art is used to describe large-scale mixed media constructions, often designed for a specific place for a temporary period of time. So this is by the artist Chica Modem, and this is called Presence, and these are two different parts of an installation room view, so these are like within the same room. So installations are like rooms where like you can walk around, so like they might have sculptures, but they're like mixed media. There are more immersive installations, and it varies. We'll get into that. So for this, what she does is she uses over 6,000 garbage bags braided into coils of hair-like structures suspended from ceiling beams and walls and like structures, and so Presence is rooted in exploration surrounding cultural dislocation, disconnection, and hybridity. It consists of massive draped-like structures of braids, braided black bags. The excessiveness of the form and the obsession in the process of braiding the work are reflections of a need to weave past and present memories and experiences together. So about weaving, and obviously like the significance of hair and braided hair and cultural significance there. So yeah. So environments. So here we had an installation, and then we have environments. So environments and installations, like, you know, it's the same thing. So it is an alternative term for an installation art. So yeah, that's what they are. But sometimes people say that environments are more like immersive, but they're really not necessarily. But, you know, I just threw it in there. They're also known as environments. Okay, so anyways, here, Damian Ortega. So he is a Mexican artist, and he does these kind of like deconstructed or like obviously hanging sculptures in mixed media, like installations. And so here we have, this is called Controller of the Universe, and it's like saws and axes and like garden-y stuff. And they're kind of like pointing. And then this one is like a VW beetle, and it's like kind of like taken apart, called Cosmic Thing. So Damian Ortega's work relates to the traces of economic and material exchange, and in particular how regional cultural effects, commodity, and regional culture affects commodity consumption. So his work investigates systems, volumes, and forms with an experimental curiosity and range of different media, including sculpture, installation, photography, performance, blah, blah, blah. So, yeah. Environments. Blah, blah, blah. Alright, so site specific. So, as we talked about at the very beginning, the Cloud Gate was like a site specific work, because it's like made to like reflect the Chicago skyline. Here we have a site specific work, and site specific is a term that refers to a work of art that is designed specifically for a particular location and has an interrelationship with that location. There's a lot of different site-specific works in Athens, if you think about it, but I chose this one. So here is an Athens legacy, and it was created by the Miami-based artist Elio Mercado, along with Athens artist Broderick Flanagan, and the funding for this project was provided by Athens Cultural Affairs Commission. So, yeah. This is, if you haven't seen this, which I don't know how you haven't, maybe you're just not looking up, the Hot Corner mural in Athens, on Hot Corner. Broderick Flanagan is a local artist and activist, and he helped create the mural and like bring people like him and that other guy work together. So this is a tribute to like the people of Athens, and like specifically the Black people of Athens that built that corner, and that have had like a legacy like building that area of Athens. It's downtown, like there's that barber shop, there's like world famous Morton Theater, you know, that's right back there by Morton Theater, you know. If y'all don't know where that is either, like, look it up. I'm not very good at the streets. Is that Cole? Cole. Yeah. Directions was never my thing. So, this is over there, and it kind of pays tribute to specifically the Black people that have had their place in this community and, like, helped build this community. Like the barbershop and the music from the Morton Theater, and yeah, pays legacy to the life of that corner and the legacy of Athens. It's site specific because it's about that corner. Alright, public art. So public art, there's a lot of different types of public art. I mean, graffiti is public art, street art is public art, the beam is public art. Here's a the term public art refers to art that is in the public realm, regardless of whether it is situated on public or private property, or whether it has been purchased with public or private money. So it doesn't have to be like purchased with public money to be public art. It just has to be on public, like it's in the public realm. Public realm. So there you go. So here we have Maya Lin's Vietnam Veterans Memorial. And Maya Lin is an architect, and she actually designed this and threw like a contest, and she won. And this is the most well-known public art piece in America, the United States of America, like not like all of, that's like too much. So yeah, the term public, well, I already said that. What's unique about this? So here, the Vietnam Memorial, it pays tribute to all the lives that were lost in Vietnam, and it's inscribed with like over like 6,000 names. I don't even remember. Probably 600,000 names. I don't remember. But that's like the thing that's like really unique about it, is because like most monuments and like don't have like names on it and memorials. All right, so new genre public art is a term that refers to public art that is often activist in nature. So here, this is like pays tribute. It's public art, but it's not activist. The same with the bean, not activist. It's just public art. So this is created outside of the institutional structures in order to engage with the audience directly. So you know the bean doesn't really engage with the audience directly. It's just there. Same with the wall. It's just there. People can engage with it, but it doesn't engage with them. So this is what new genre public art is. So, Erwin Wurm did this hot dog bus, and it was funded by the Public Art Fund in New York City. And the Public Art Fund brings dynamic contemporary art to a broad audience in New York City by mounting free exhibitions of international scope and impact that offer public powerful experiences with art in urban environments. So Erwin Worm created this bus, and it is a vintage Volkswagen microbus into that has been like kind of transformed like into like looking like a hot dog. And welcoming artwork is intended to be a generous and democratic. Hot dogs were popularized in the U.S. by immigrants at the turn of the 20th century. The familiar sausage hints at the gastronomic connection between New York City's most iconic street food and Worm's Austrian homeland. So Worm is Austrian. Hot Dog Bus encourage us to rethink food and art, and how, as we know it, the work proposes an approach to sculpture that blurs the boundaries between artwork and the audience, creating an amusing yet thoughtful experience. Worm is interested in the similarities between modeling a statue in clay, increasing the volume of a bus, and even the act of eating, which adds mass to our own bodies. So it's like 3 times as, nominally. The work also highlights how everyday consumption might grow into gluttony, encouraging us to examine the connection between food, consumerism, and our bodies. In doing so, Worm creates paradoxical tension between the playfulness of Hot Dog Bus and its wry observation of our culture's tendency towards excess. I like the other description of it too. So the viewer is like a willing participant of guilty participant in the act of consumption. Yet too, the Hot Dog Bus is a deeply democratic work of artwork. It perfectly embodies the notion of what public art should be, and it could and should be, and that is inclusive. So I liked that quote the best of like the description of this. So yeah, this is public artwork. Like, he is engaging with the public in his new genre of public art, in his like thing, in his act of like making this art. And that's it. All right, on to the next. Bye.